Hello everyone, X-Walk Hill Bethelite here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the continued, what I like to call implosion of Jehovah's Witnesses. I like to call it an implosion because it is an internal decay that is causing the collapse of the Watchtower organization. And what they've tried to do is loosen up a few rules. You all know that they have changed the beard rule, right? Where men were not allowed to grow facial hair because Watchtower said so. Well, now they're allowing men to wear facial hair. They were not allowing women to wear pants. Now they will allow them to wear slacks. And also where a disfellowship person would be treated in the most inhumane way humanly possible at the direction of this organization. Well, they changed it to now you can say hi to them. You can't really talk to them very much, but now you can say hi. The problem with changing some inconsequential rules is it has nothing to do with the implosion of Jehovah's Witnesses. It has nothing to do. They're not losing members in droves because women wanted to wear slacks. They're not losing people in droves because men just all wanted to wear beards. They're not losing people in droves because, well, they just need to be able to say hi to a disfellowship person and then go back to shunning them. And now, people will start flocking back. They are losing people in droves for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is it is near impossible to get along with someone who is extremely judgmental. Have you ever been around somebody? It doesn't matter if it's at work, at school, where you live, wherever it is. You ever been around somebody that is constantly pointing out flaws that you might have or flaws that they think you might have and constantly judging you? Those sorts of things aren't fun. If you have a supervisor where you work and they are constantly on you, constantly on everybody about any little thing, just judging nonstop and having extreme overreactions to anything, most likely you're not going to work there very long. Most likely that company isn't going to do very well because you have an inhospitable environment. This is the situation with Jehovah's Witnesses. You have an environment that is inhospitable. You have an environment that is almost impossible to live in when each and every member is constantly judging, pointing out things about someone else. And it doesn't have to be anything major. It could just be one of their little Watchtower lessons. Well, someone didn't answer enough questions. So now we need to point that out and we need to focus on how this person isn't spiritual because they didn't answer enough questions at our little Watchtower talk. Like, these things aren't even in the Bible, that thou shalt answer at least 3 questions in the watchtower, or thou shalt give so many talks on the platform, or you need to be shunned, right? You know, these are things that are interwoven in Jehovah's Witness culture. And these are things that push people out. Now, there are scriptures in the Bible that refer to not judging. There aren't just scriptures in the Bible. There's areas where Jesus himself multiple times talked about not judging. This is a huge topic that's covered in the Bible, that you're not supposed to judge other people. You're not supposed to be pointing things out. And if a Jehovah's Witness just didn't know what judging is, there's an illustration about a person pointing out the straw in someone else's eye while having a rafter in their own eye, meaning they've got problems of their own that they need to focus on. The Bible also talks about each person giving an accounting to God. But with Jehovah's Witnesses, you need to give an accounting to them as they dip in your business at every given opportunity. Most of what Jehovah's Witnesses do is pass out magazines, give comments at watchtower discussions, and gossip. Talk about everybody else's business. Being busybodies in everybody else's business. Digging in everybody else's business. Judging. And I'm talking literally people who have no business judging other people. I'm talking about people telling you, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you tell me how could this possibly lead to an implosion? If you're a Jehovah's Witness and dating and relationships and things like that, that's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a normal part of life. Well, you have Jehovah's Witnesses that are going to come up with concepts that are not even in the Bible, that you are only allowed to marry somebody if they are a member of Watchtower, or if they're a member of the Jehovah's Witness religion. Doesn't matter if they're Christian, doesn't matter what church they go to, doesn't matter anything. Only thing that matters is you're supposed to marry a Jehovah's Witness. Well, the people who oftentimes are judging everyone else. Oh, this person is dating someone and they don't go to the hall. Well, half the time the person that's judging is married to somebody and they don't go to the hall. We have had elders in one of my old congregations who they would come to the meetings and they would give parts on the meetings. I'm sure they're in judicial meetings judging other people, and their wives don't go to the hall. You're talking about levels of idiocy that is beyond understanding. How can you judge someone for dating somebody who doesn't go to the hall when your husband or wife don't go to the hall? It makes no sense whatsoever. You have so many people with major issues of their own, but what they want to do is peck at everybody else, point the finger at any and everybody else. That's a huge part of Jehovah's Witness culture is to do exactly what the Bible tells you not to, and that is to judge others and to be busybodies in other people's business. That is darn near all there is to being a Jehovah's Witness outside of having a magazine study and passing out magazines or standing next to carts. So if you have an environment that is that inhospitable, you create a situation where you are going to push people out who probably ordinarily in any other religion might stay. You have a lot of Catholics that may remain Catholics. Not that the Catholic Church gets up and says, hey, it's okay for everyone to do what everyone wants, but they have enough common sense to know they're not God. These individual people are not God, and these individual people in these churches don't need to all be judging everybody. They at least have that much common sense. Jehovah's Witnesses do not have that much common sense. Each and every individual member of the congregation, you may have 1% of a kingdom hall or a congregation that's not going to be judging and in everybody else's business. And this is a huge part. Let me mention this. This is a huge part of what is normalized amongst Jehovah's Witnesses. And that is gossiping about people that you don't interact with. So if you are Jehovah's Witness or you are associated with Jehovah's Witnesses, you need to be prepared for so-and-so who doesn't call you, doesn't talk to you, but they will talk to everybody else to find out about you, or everybody else to tell them what they think. I mean, you've got people gossiping that have almost no connection to the person that they're gossiping about. You've got people, and these are people's family members, relatives. How horrible is that? You're thinking, oh, well, this is just, this is somewhat every church does this. No, it's very unique to have a church where not only is every member, for the most part, all they do is talk about everybody else's business. But typically these are relatives, family members who are so busy judging everyone, they don't speak to their own family members because they're picking and finding things wrong with everybody else and ignoring all the things wrong with them, such as you got all these elders. These are the people that are, trying to instruct others on how they should live. And when it comes to family and marriage, they have, and I've mentioned this before, been through so many divorces. If every time I get into a car, I wreck that car, I'm talking I total it, do you think I should be a driving instructor? Do you think I should be getting into cars and trying to teach everybody else how to drive? If every time I get in a car, I wreck it, maybe I should leave that one alone. No, Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that. They have all these people who have completely destroyed their families, and they want to look at the younger ones in the congregation and tell them who they should and shouldn't date, and tell them in the way that they say it, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, is Jehovah want you to do this and Jehovah want you to do that. Like you got some hearing aid that Jehovah is talking through and nobody else can hear it but you, or you just read this freaking Watchtower magazine and now you just literally, what God wants in every situation, whereas you completely wrecked your own. So explain this. How are Jehovah's Witnesses such experts on who a person should marry, who a person should date, how long they should date? How are they such experts on these things when half the hall, they're all divorcees? And not that there's, that this is a horrible thing, but typically I'm talking people who they've just, dated and married Jehovah's Witnesses, and none of these situations have worked out. Typically, that's a person who would probably, if you're going to judge someone on anything, you might want to leave the whole dating and relationship thing to somebody else. Somebody who could figure it out, right? No, not Jehovah's Witnesses. You got teachings that have been completely false, completely wrong. The whole stay alive until 75 thing, that was completely false. Armageddon didn't come in 1975. The whole generation of 1914 won't pass away before the end of the world. That was completely false. You're talking constantly getting teachings false. Constantly changing and flip-flopping on doctrines, and then having the nerve to misuse a scripture and call it new light. Every time we get something wrong, it's not that we're wrong, even though we had to have been wrong to have gotten it wrong. What it is just this new light came upon us, and we just had to change everything that was wrong. It's a way to find a way around admitting that they're wrong on so many teachings. How do you have a group of people who not only half of them couldn't figure out how to have a successful family, but yet Jehovah's Witnesses are obsessed with getting into people's business as far as sexual matters, as far as family, as far as relationships. You got all these people who have wrecked their lives trying to tell you what they think Jehovah wants you to do. But you have also all these people who can't keep a teaching right. They're constantly teaching things incorrectly. These are the people who are judging everybody, the people who have this rafter in their eye called false teachings and false predictions. They don't know if half their teachings are right now because they're constantly wrong, and they've been wrong throughout their history. If you are a religion and you are publicly teaching things that are false, and you keep finding out that they're false and you keep having to change them, there's some Jehovah's Witnesses that are so idiotic that they think it's a good thing. They think it's a good thing if you keep getting something wrong and keep having to change it. Oh, it's good because that means that you're so nice of a person to change it once it becomes blatantly obvious that you've been misleading people for years upon years. There are people who were treated as worldly and outcasts because they had beards and didn't want to shave their beard. Now they've changed the rule and now it's okay. What about all those people that they treated that they were not spiritual because they had a beard? What about all those people who were disfellowshipped and tormented by their own family not speaking to them, and left in that state for years upon years upon years upon years? Now Watchtower wants to change it, but what about the other people that they did those things to? Disfellowshipped them for 10 years in a decade or whatever the case may be. Jehovah's Witnesses are not in any position to individually judge others. Because if you go as high as Jehovah's Witnesses can go, which is their governing body, which isn't in the Bible. The word governing body is not in the Bible. Something else that they done made up. And this concept that Jehovah is just talking to them. All they did was read a watchtower and Jehovah done talked to them. No matter how high you go, you got people who cannot even figure out basic teachings. To have a religion, you got to have teachings. The bare minimum to have a religion is you got to at least be able to teach the Bible. To be a Christian religion, you got to be able to teach the Bible. If you keep teaching falsehoods, if you keep screwing up the most basic thing about being a religion, and that is teaching something and it at least being accurate, how on earth do you then come up with this misconception that you are the elite religion, that you are above all these other people and religions, and that people who are not in your often false teaching religion, people who are not in your flip-flop doctrine religion, people who are not in your religion with elders that can, about none of them have been through any kind of a seminary or anything to that effect. Well, if they're not involved with that level of stupidity, well, then they're worldly. Why? Because they do things that Watchtower doesn't agree with. It doesn't necessarily mean that they do things that are, non-biblical, but they do things that Watchtower doesn't agree with. Who even knows what half their teachings are now? What if the person goes out and votes? Well, now you got to worry about Jehovah's Witnesses spreading it far and wide. Everybody talking to everybody. Such and such a person voted. All that makes them worldly, like just complete idiocy. A person that has a certain level of intellect is not going to enjoy having a conversation with a person who has like a fifth grader's IQ. Right? You're not going to enjoy, it's not going to be deep and an enjoyable conversation for you. Well, that's another reason why Jehovah's Witnesses are imploding, because you have all these typically uneducated people. And it's not that there's anything wrong with being uneducated per se, but being uneducated and trying to tell everyone else what to do and what Jehovah wants them to do, well, that ain't a good thing. Because Jehovah's Witnesses believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section, that there was a great apostasy and all of Christianity fell. Well, if all of Christianity fell, what then gives them the authority, or anybody in Watchtower, the authority to start making magazines and telling everybody this is Jehovah speaking to us through these magazines or speaking to us through Watchtower? Where on earth did they get that foolishness? Especially when they're publicly getting things wrong. They're constantly getting things wrong. Well, it wasn't Jehovah who told you 1975 was going to be the end of the world. And it wasn't Jehovah that said the generation of 1914 wouldn't pass away before the end of the system. But it wasn't Watchtowers. So then that means Jehovah is not speaking through Watchtowers. This is common sense stuff. The main issue with having all these uneducated, mentally slow Jehovah's Witnesses telling you what to do, is you are the one who has to suffer the consequences if you do it. The Bible says if a blind man follows a blind man, both will fall in a pit. If you follow somebody dumb enough to think Watchtower or the Jehovah's Witness organization and Jehovah are pretty much the same thing, and anything coming from Watchtower or anything an elder says, that's Jehovah telling you that. For no reason, they have no logical reason to have this kind of a concept, but if they're just that dumb, I'm just going to keep listening to people. It don't matter how often they're wrong, but they're still Jehovah somehow. If they're just that dumb and you follow them according to the Bible, yeah, they're going to fall in the pit. They're going to destroy their lives. But then so will you. That coincides with what happened to me at Bethel and a lot of other people. There are a lot of other people that spent, who knows, 20, 30 years, 40 years, even longer at Bethel. And then Bethel did what the Jehovah's Witness organization always does, and that's change their mind on things and start selling buildings that Bethelites would work and live in, and then just start getting rid of the Bethelites. What they did was they had a meeting, and in that meeting, you have a governing body member say that Jehovah wants to speed up the work. The end is so close. Jehovah wants to speed up the work. He's going to start putting some of these single brothers into MTS school. He's going to start taking some of these married couples and sending them to Gilead. And this is a talk being given at Bethel, referring to single Bethelites and single couples. They're essentially telling everybody, we're about to start laying you off. But the way that they're putting it publicly is we're sending people to MTS, we're sending them to Gilead, we're reassigning them to different exciting assignments. You're going to be learning a different language. You're going to be going to a different country and preaching in places where maybe the government isn't so accepting of Jehovah's Witness. You really have to think about that. We're going to be sending you off here. Well, what happens in reality, and this is probably the quickest flip-flop in the history of Jehovah's Witnesses. You have that meeting, and then a little while later, I'm pulled into a room with two Bethel elders. There's a Bible there. No one touches the Bible. There's no loving, we appreciate your service. We know this is hard for you to hear. There's none of that. There is flat out, we're making cuts. You're one of those cuts. When can you reasonably pack your things and leave Bethel? I kid you, I'm just sitting there, shocked. I'm shocked. I'm looking at the Bible like, are they going to show me something in the Bible where this is okay? All of a sudden, Bethelites are just disposable now? They're like toilet paper. You can just wipe yourself with them and throw them away when you're done with. You know what I mean? It's you got people that have given 40, 50 years of their lives to this. You just tossing them out now? So I asked them specifically about MTS and Gilead. They said, we're not recommending anyone for MTS or Gilead now. Did you not just hear what the governing body member said 2-3 days ago? This is one of the quickest flip-flops in organizational history. One day we're sending you to MTS and Gilead. 2 days later, no, we're just making cuts. So then I remember them packing my stuff in my car. And, you know, I was telling the brother about, I remember it was the overseer, the home overseer. First name was Vito. I'm telling him about, you know, the brother said he's going to be sending us to all these different countries. And do you know what the brother said to me? Why don't you go to the Spanish congregation? Yeah, go to the Spanish. Tell him I sent you. Go to the Spanish. Learn Spanish. No, You said, the governing body said, we're sending you to MTS in other countries. No, it didn't say you can just go to the Spanish congregation after we kick you out. So comment down below, let me know what you think. But this is a level of instability, idiocy, and people constantly trying to wreck other people's lives and judge other people's lives when they can't even get a teaching right. And it is impossible to live amongst people like that. And I think that's going to cause the implosion of Jehovah's Witnesses. Comment down below. X Walk Hill Bethelite signing out.